Can you pretend to be my boyfriend for a day? That is what she asked him. A complete stranger she had only served coffee to every morning. A single dad who barely spoke, who carried grief in his eyes like a weight he could not put down. She was desperate, humiliated, terrified of facing the people who had made her childhood a living nightmare. She expected him to say no, to walk away like everyone else had. But what he said next did not just stun her. It changed both their lives forever. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. It was a cold Tuesday morning in late October when the universe decided to rewrite Two Broken Hearts. The kind of morning where frost clung to windshields and breath turned to clouds in the air. The kind of morning that felt like an ending but was really a beginning in disguise. Rosie's Corner Cafe sat on the edge of Main Street in Millbrook, Ohio, a small brick building with faded red awnings and windows fogged with warmth. The smell of fresh coffee and cinnamon rolls drifted through the door every time it opened, pulling in customers like a gentle promise. Vintage photographs lined the walls, images of Millbrook from decades past, and mismatched chairs surrounded worn wooden tables that had heard 1,000 conversations. It was the kind of place where regulars became family, where the same faces appeared at the same times, ordering the same things, finding comfort in the predictability of it all. Nathan Cole pushed through the door at exactly 6:52 a.m., just like he had every morning for the past 2 years. The bell above the entrance chimed softly, announcing his arrival to no one in particular. He was 38 years old, tall and broad-shouldered from years of construction work with short dark hair that had started showing touches of gray at the temples. His blue eyes were tired, always tired, carrying a weight that never seemed to lift. He wore his usual uniform, a worn Carhartt jacket over a flannel shirt. Work boots that had seen better days, jeans faded at the knees. His hands were calloused strong, wrapped around a coffee cup more mornings than not. He moved with the quiet efficiency of a man who had learned to take up as little space as possible to exist without being noticed. Nathan sat in his usual corner booth, the one by the window where he could watch the world wake up without being part of it. He did not look at his phone. He did not read the newspaper. He just sat there staring out at the street, searching for something he could not name. Behind the counter, Melody Harper watched him settle into his seat. She was 32, with blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun that always seemed to be falling apart by mid-shift. Her green eyes were kind, observant, catching details that others missed. She wore a green apron over a simple blue sweater, comfortable clothes for a job that kept her on her feet for hours. She had been working at Rosie's for 4 years now, long enough to know every regular by name, to remember their orders, before they spoke them, to notice when something was wrong, even if they did not say a word. Nathan Cole was her favorite mystery. He never talked about himself, never mentioned friends or family or weekend plans. He answered her questions with one-word responses, his voice low and rough like he had forgotten how to use it for anything beyond necessity. But he always said, please. He always said thank you. And sometimes when she asked about his day, she caught something flickering in those tired blue eyes, something that looked almost like gratitude. Today was different. Today, Melody had been awake since 3 a.m., lying in the darkness of her small apartment staring at an envelope that had arrived 3 weeks ago. The high school reunion invitation sat in her apron pocket right now, pressed against her hip like a ticking time bomb. Millbrook High School class of 2012. 10-year reunion. Every year for the past decade, she had thrown that invitation away. Every year she had told herself she did not need to prove anything to anyone. Every year she had lied. This year was supposed to be different. This year she had finally decided to go. But she could not go alone. She just could not. And she had no one to ask. Melody poured Nathan's coffee, black, no sugar, and carried it to his table. Her hands were steady, but her heart was racing. She had been rehearsing what she wanted to say for 3 weeks now, and she still did not know if she could actually do it. "Morning, Nathan," she said, setting the cup down in front of him. "Morning," he replied, his voice barely above a murmur. She lingered for just a moment, watching him wrap his calloused hands around the warm ceramic. He looked more tired than usual today, the shadows under his eyes deeper, the lines around his mouth more pronounced. She wanted to ask if he was okay. She wanted to sit down across from him and talk, really talk about something that mattered. She wanted to tell him that she noticed him, that she saw him, that someone in this world was paying attention. Instead, she just smiled and walked away. There was still time. She had until Saturday to find the courage, or to lose it completely. Nathan finished his coffee at 7:23 a.m., the same time he finished it every morning. He left exact change on the table plus a $5 tip, the same tip he always left even though the coffee only cost $3. It was one of the small kindnesses Melody had come to count on, one of the ways she had learned to read him without words. He stood, shrugged on his jacket, and headed for the door. The bell chimed as he pushed through into the cold October air. His breath fogged in front of him as he walked toward his truck, a blue Ford F-150 that had seen better days but still ran strong. He was halfway across the parking lot when he heard it. Footsteps. Quick, urgent, rushing up behind him. Nathan turned his body, tensing instinctively, and found Melody Harper standing there in nothing but her thin blue sweater, her apron abandoned somewhere inside. Her cheeks were flushed pink from the cold, her breath coming in short, visible bursts. Her blonde hair was escaping, its bun strands falling across her face. She looked terrified and determined, and like she was about to either say something important or burst into tears. "I am sorry," she blurted out, her voice trembling. "I know this is probably the weirdest thing anyone has ever asked you, but—" She stopped, pressed her lips together like she was trying to hold something back. Her hands were shaking, and Nathan noticed she was gripping them together so tightly her knuckles had gone white. He had been coming to Rose's Corner Cafe every morning for nearly 2 years. In all that time, Melody had never followed him outside. She had never looked at him with this kind of desperation in her eyes, this raw vulnerability that made his chest tighten. "Can I talk to you for just 1 minute?" she asked. "Please." Nathan was not good at conversations anymore. He had forgotten how to be. After his wife died 3 years ago, he had built walls so high that even his own 7-year-old daughter could not always climb over them. He had learned to exist in silence, to move through the world without making waves, to protect himself from anything that might make him feel too much. Walking away would have been easier, safer. But something in Melody's expression made him stay. That raw vulnerability mixed with quiet courage. The look of someone who was about to do something that terrified them, and was doing it anyway. "Sure," he said quietly, setting his coffee cup on the hood of his truck. "What is going on?" Melody took a shaky breath. Her eyes fixed on the cracked pavement beneath her feet like she could not bear to look at him while she spoke. "I have a high school reunion this Saturday," she said. "I have been avoiding it for 10 years. Every single year they send me an invitation, and every single year I throw it away. Because I cannot." Her voice cracked. "I cannot face them." Nathan frowned slightly, waiting. He did not push, did not prompt, just stood there in the cold morning air, giving her space to find her words. "The people who made my life miserable." Melody continued, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "The people who called me horrible names, who said I was ugly, who said I would never amount to anything, who said no one would ever love someone like me." She let out a bitter laugh that held no humor at all, a sound that was more pain than anything else, and for a long time I believed them. Nathan felt something tighten in his chest, not pity, something deeper, something that felt uncomfortably like recognition. "This year," Melody said, finally lifting her eyes to meet his, "I decided I wanted to go. Not to prove anything to them, really, but to prove something to myself, to show myself that I survived, that I am still here, that they did not break me." She looked directly at him now, vulnerability written across every feature of her face. Her green eyes were bright with unshed tears, her jaw set with determination that was fighting a losing battle against her fear. "But I cannot go alone," she said. "I just cannot. And I do not have anyone to ask." The words hung in the cold October air. Nathan could see how much it had cost her to say them, to admit that kind of loneliness to a stranger. "My parents passed away when I was young." Melody continued, her voice steadier now, like she was reciting facts instead of feelings. "And I do not really have friends. Not close ones anyway. I work, I go home, I read books. That is my life." The morning traffic hummed in the distance. A few early shoppers passed by on the sidewalk, but Nathan barely noticed them. He was focused entirely on this woman who had always been kind to him, who remembered his daughter's name, who asked about his day even when he only gave one-word answers. "I have been watching you," Melody admitted, her cheeks turning a deeper shade of pink. "Not in a creepy way, I promise, but I see you every morning. You are kind. You are gentle. You always say, 'Please' and 'thank you' even when you look exhausted." She took another shaky breath, steeling herself for what came next. "And I just thought, maybe—" The words caught in her throat. She pressed her lips together again, fighting for control. "Would you pretend to be my boyfriend for one day? Just for the reunion, I will pay you if you want. I just need someone to stand beside me so I do not feel so small." The request landed between them like a stone dropped in still water, ripples spreading outward, disturbing the careful calm Nathan had built around himself. He should say no. He knew he should. He had not been to any kind of social event since Grace died. The thought of walking into a room full of strangers, of pretending to be someone's boyfriend, of acting like a normal person who knew how to smile and make small talk, it terrified him. But looking at Melody now, standing in the cold with tears threatening to spill down her cheeks, he could not find the word. Because he had been her once. He knew exactly what it felt like to be made small. Something shifted in Nathan's expression. The quiet, reserved man who had sat in the corner booth for 2 years disappeared completely. In his place was someone who understood pain, someone who recognized the wounds she carried because he carried them too. Because Nathan Cole knew exactly what it felt like to be broken by cruel words. He had met 100 people like her, tormentors in his life. People who tore others down to build themselves up. People who smiled while they destroyed you. People who never faced consequences for their cruelty because the world rewarded beauty and confidence even when both were hollow. He had been their target once. He knew the scars they left behind. Nathan stood frozen in the parking lot, Melody's question echoing in his head. The cold October wind cut through his jacket, but he barely felt it. He was somewhere else, entirely lost in a memory he had spent years trying to bury. He was 12 years old again, standing in the hallway of Ashford Middle School. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. He was wearing jeans that were 2 sizes too big because his mother had bought them at a thrift store for 50 cents. They were the only pants he had that did not have holes in the knees. "Nice floods," Carver, someone shouted from behind him. "Did you fish those out of a dumpster?" Laughter erupted around him. Cruel, cutting laughter that followed him into every classroom, every lunch period, every moment of his childhood that should have been innocent. They pushed him into lockers, stole his lunch, called him dumpster boy and trash kid, and worse things that still echoed in his head on his darkest nights. He was the skinny, awkward kid who wore clothes that did not fit because his family could not afford new ones. The kid who was mocked relentlessly for being poor, for being different, for existing in a world that seemed determined to crush him. Nathan had transformed himself over the years, built muscle working construction, found success, created a life he was proud of. But the scars remained. They always would. Some wounds never fully healed. They just stopped bleeding. Looking at Melody now standing before him with tears in her eyes and hope she was afraid to fully embrace, Nathan saw a reflection of his own pain, the same haunted look, the same careful way of holding herself like she was bracing for impact, the same desperate need to prove that she was worth something, that the cruel words had not been true. He could not walk away from that. "You do not have to pay me," he said softly. Melody's eyes widened. "What? What time should I pick you up?" For a moment she just stared at him. Her lips parted slightly, her breath catching in her throat. She was trying to determine whether he was serious, whether this was some kind of cruel joke, whether she could actually trust this quiet stranger who had never given her more than a handful of words. But Nathan's expression was steady, genuine, the same quiet kindness she had noticed in him every morning for 2 years. "You will do it," she whispered. "Really?" Nathan nodded. "Really?" Something broke open in Melody's chest. For the first time since she had received that reunion invitation 3 weeks ago, she felt like she could breathe. The weight that had been pressing down on her shoulders lifted just enough to let in light. A laugh escaped her lips. A real joyful laugh, the kind that comes from relief so profound it borders on disbelief. She pressed her hands to her face, trying to contain the emotion that was threatening to spill over. "Thank you," she said, tears streaming freely down her cheeks now. "Thank you so much. You have no idea what this means to me." "Saturday," Nathan confirmed, picking up his coffee from the hood of his truck. "Text me your address." He pulled a pen from his pocket, scribbled his number on a napkin he had been using as a coaster, and handed it to her. Their fingers brushed briefly, and Melody felt a spark of something she could not name. "I will," she managed. "I will text you tonight." Nathan nodded once, then climbed into his truck. As he pulled out of the parking lot, he glanced in the rear-view mirror. Melody was still standing there, clutching the napkin to her chest, her face tilted up toward the gray October sky. He did not know what he had just agreed to. He did not know if he could actually do this, if he could walk into a room full of strangers and pretend to be someone's boyfriend, if he could act like a normal person who had not spent the last 3 years drowning in grief. But he had seen something in her eyes that he recognized too well. The look of someone who had been made to feel worthless, who had internalized every cruel word, every dismissive glance, every moment of rejection. He knew that look because he had worn it himself for years. Maybe this was foolish. Maybe he was setting himself up for failure. But he remembered being that kid nobody stood up for, that boy in 2 big jeans who ate lunch alone in the library because the cafeteria was too dangerous. Nobody had ever stood beside him when he was small. Maybe just this once he could be the person he had always wished someone had been for him. As Nathan drove toward the construction site, his hands gripped the steering wheel a little tighter than usual. The morning sun was climbing over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was going to be a beautiful day, the kind of day that felt full of possibility. He had not felt possibility in a very long time. But something had shifted in that parking lot. Something small but significant, like the first crack in a dam. He did not know what would come flooding through once the walls started to break. He was not sure he wanted to find out. But for the first time in 3 years, he was curious enough to try. The alarm went off at 5:30 a.m., the same time it had gone off every single day for the past 3 years. Nathan reached over and silenced it without opening his eyes, his body moving through the familiar routine on autopilot. He lay there for just a moment, staring at the ceiling of his small bedroom. The house was quiet, the kind of heavy silence that felt like it was pressing down on him. He used to love mornings back when Grace was alive. She would wake up before him, start the coffee hum little songs while she got ready for the day. The house had been full of sound, then full of life. Now it was just silence. Nathan pushed himself out of bed and padded down the hallway to check on his daughter. Lily's door was slightly ajar the way she liked it, with a nightlight glowing softly in the corner. She was 7 years old, small for her age, with her mother's auburn hair spread across her pillow like a flame. She slept curled up on her side, clutching a stuffed rabbit named Mr. Whiskers that had been Grace's gift to her the Christmas before she died. She looked peaceful in sleep. It was the only time Nathan saw her truly relaxed anymore. Lily had become so quiet since her mother passed. She had been 4 years old when it happened, old enough to remember, but too young to understand. She used to ask where Mommy was over and over until the question stopped. Nathan did not know if she had accepted it or just given up on getting answers. She had learned at 7 years old that asking only led to disappointment. He closed her door gently and headed to the kitchen. The house was small but tidy, a 2-bedroom rental in a working-class neighborhood on the outskirts of Millbrook. The furniture was second-hand practical, nothing fancy, but the walls were covered with photographs of Grace, her smile frozen in time in dozens of frames. There she was on their wedding day, radiant in white. There she was, holding newborn Lily in the hospital, exhausted but glowing. There she was at the beach, laughing at something Nathan had said, her hair blowing in the wind. He had put the photos up for Lily so she would not forget her mother's face. But sometimes in the early morning light, Nathan felt like he was living in a shrine, surrounded by memories of a life that had been stolen from him. He made breakfast on autopilot. Scrambled eggs slightly overdone, toast a little burnt on one side. He had never been good at cooking, that had been Grace's domain, but he had learned to manage. Survival cooking, he called it. Good enough to keep them fed, not good enough to enjoy. Lily appeared in the doorway at 6:15, rubbing sleep from her blue eyes. She was wearing her favorite purple pajamas, the ones with little stars on them. Her auburn hair was a tangled mess. "Morning, sweetheart," Nathan said, forcing brightness into his voice. Hungry Lily nodded and climbed into her chair at the small kitchen table. She ate in silence, her feet dangling off the seat, her eyes fixed on her plate. Nathan watched her, that familiar ache settling in his chest. She used to chatter through breakfast, talking about her dreams, asking a million questions about everything, singing little songs she had learned at preschool. Now she barely spoke unless spoken to. He had done this to her. Not intentionally, but he had done it nonetheless. His grief had become a black hole, pulling all the light from their home. He had been so focused on surviving, on keeping them afloat financially, on not falling apart completely, that he had forgotten how to be present, how to really be there for his daughter. She had adapted to his silence by becoming silent herself. At 6:47, Nathan pulled up to his mother's house, a modest white colonial on the other side of town. Eleanor Cole was 65 years old, still sharp, still fiery, still the strongest woman Nathan had ever known. She had been their lifeline since Grace died, watching Lily during the day, while Nathan worked providing the stability he could not seem to manage on his own. "Hey, Mom," Nathan said, as Lily unbuckled her seatbelt. Eleanor appeared on the porch, wrapped in a cardigan against the morning chill. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat bun, her eyes taking in everything at once, the way they always did. "She did not sleep well again," Nathan said quietly, watching Lily trudge up the porch steps. "Had a nightmare." Eleanor nodded, her face softening. "I will keep an eye on her." She watched Lily disappear into the house, then turned back to Nathan. Her eyes narrowed slightly, studying his face with that piercing maternal gaze he had never been able to hide from. "You look tired," she said. "I am always tired." "More tired than usual?" Nathan shrugged, not wanting to get into it. "Long week." Eleanor did not push, but he could see the worry in her eyes. She had been worried about him for 3 years now, watching her son fade into a ghost of himself. But she had learned not to push. Nathan had built walls too high for even his mother to scale. "Go," she said gently. "I have got her." Nathan nodded, put the truck in gear, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, he could see Eleanor standing on the porch, her hand raised in a small wave. He wondered if she knew how much he was struggling. He wondered if she could see the cracks starting to form in the walls he had built. The construction site was loud and chaotic, exactly the way Nathan needed it to be. He had worked his way up to foreman over the past 2 years, respected by his crew for his hard work and fair leadership. The physical labor exhausted his body, which was the point. If he was tired enough, he could not think. If he could not think, he could not remember. But today his mind kept wandering. He kept seeing Melody's face in that parking lot, the desperation in her green eyes, the way her voice had cracked when she talked about the people who had made her feel worthless, the sheer courage it must have taken to chase down a stranger and ask for help. He thought about Grace, the way she had been taken from him without warning. One moment they were eating dinner, talking about weekend plans, and the next she was on the floor. Her face had gone pale, her lips had turned blue. By the time the ambulance arrived, she was gone. A rare heart defect, the doctors had said. Congenital, undetected, a ticking time bomb she had carried her whole life without knowing. No warning, no goodbye. Just gone. Nathan had closed himself off after that. He had built a fortress around his heart because losing someone you loved, that completely was a pain he never wanted to risk feeling again. He worked. He cared for Lily. He existed. But he did not really live. Rose's Corner Cafe had become the only place where the weight on his shoulders felt a little lighter. Not because of the coffee, though it was the best in Ashford, but because of Melody. She remembered everything. She knew Lily's favorite color was purple. She asked if his daughter had recovered from that cold she had had 2 weeks ago. She wished him luck when he mentioned he was bidding on a big project at work. These were small things, tiny gestures that most people would not think twice about. But to Nathan, who had been invisible for so long, they meant everything. She saw him. Really saw him, not just the tired construction worker who ordered black coffee and said nothing. She saw the human being underneath. And now somehow he was going to be her pretend boyfriend. God help them both. That night, after Lily was asleep, Nathan sat in the dark living room. The only light came from the street lamp outside, casting long shadows across Grace's photos. He talked to her sometimes in these quiet moments, not out loud, but in his head. He told her about his day, about Lily, about the small moments that made up their life without her. Tonight, he told her about Melody. "I do not know what I am doing," he whispered to her smiling face. "I do not know if I can pull this off." But she needed help, Grace. She looked at me like I was her last hope. The photograph did not answer. It never did. "I am trying," he said, the words thick in his throat. "I am trying to be enough for Lily. I am trying to keep going. But it is so hard. It is so damn hard without you." A tear slipped down his cheek. He wiped it away, roughly embarrassed even in solitude. "I hope this is okay," he said finally. "I hope you would understand." Silence. The house settled around him, creaking and groaning like it was carrying the same weight he was. Nathan closed his eyes and let the darkness take him. Melody's apartment was small, just a 1-bedroom unit above a dry cleaner on the edge of town. The building was old. The pipes groaned in the winter and the heating was unreliable at best. But the rent was cheap and it was hers. The space was tiny but spotlessly clean. Second-hand furniture that she had found at estate sales and thrift stores, each piece chosen carefully to make the place feel like home. A worn blue couch with throw pillows she had sewn herself. A coffee table with a crack in the glass that she had covered with a lace doily. A small kitchen that barely fit 2 people, but that she kept stocked with tea and books and all the small comforts that helped her feel less alone. And there were books. Hundreds of them, covering every surface, stacked on the coffee table, lining the walls, piled beside her bed. Romance novels and mysteries and biographies and poetry. Stories she had escaped into as a child, worlds she had hidden in when her own became too painful to bear. Reading was her first love, her truest friend. Pages did not judge you. Characters did not leave. The night after she had chased Nathan into the parking lot, Melody sat on her couch with the reunion invitation in her hands. She had read it so many times, she had memorized every word. The date, the time, the location, the cheerful fonts and clip art decorations that seemed to mock her. Millbrook High School, class of 2012, 10-year reunion. Come celebrate old friends and new memories. Old friends. Right. Melody had never had friends in high school. Not real ones. She had had people who tolerated her, people who used her for homework, helped people who sat next to her because there were no other seats left. But never friends. Never the kind of people who invited you to parties or saved you a seat at lunch or remembered your birthday. She had been invisible at best. A target at worst. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was 6 years old. She barely remembered them, just fragments. Her mother's perfume something floral and soft. Her father's laugh deep and warm. The feeling of being held, of being safe. Then they were gone, and she was passed between foster homes like a package nobody wanted to keep. Different families, different towns, different schools. She learned to adapt, to make herself small, to not ask for too much. She learned that people left, and there was nothing you could do to make them stay. At 10, she had landed with Aunt Margaret. A distant relative on her mother's side, elderly and stern, living alone in a falling-apart Victorian house in Millbrook. Margaret was not warm. She did not hug or say I love you or make Melody feel wanted. But she was stable. She was consistent. She was the closest thing to family Melody had ever known. Margaret died 2 years ago, leaving Melody alone again. The house had to be sold to pay off debts. Everything Melody had was now packed into this tiny apartment, including the scars she could not leave behind. High school had been hell. Melody closed her eyes and let the memories wash over her, the ones she usually kept locked away. She was 14 years old, walking into the cafeteria at Millbrook High School. Her blonde hair was frizzy and unkempt. She had not learned how to style it yet. She wore glasses with thick frames because Aunt Margaret said they were practical. Her clothes were second-hand, never quite fitting right, always a little worn. She was carrying her lunch tray, trying to find a seat in a room full of people who did not want her there. The popular girls were clustered at their usual table, Victoria Ashford at the center, surrounded by her court of beautiful, cruel disciples. Victoria was everything Melody was not. Blonde and polished, with perfect teeth and designer clothes, the kind of effortless beauty that made other girls feel inadequate just by existing. She smiled like a predator, all teeth and malice, and everyone loved her for it. Melody was walking past their table, eyes down, trying to be invisible when someone stuck out their foot. She never saw it coming. The tray went flying. Mashed potatoes splattered across the floor. Her milk carton burst open, splashing across her shirt. She hit the linoleum, hard hands scraping against the dirty ground, chin striking the edge of her fallen tray. The entire cafeteria erupted in laughter. "Watch out!" Victoria's voice cut through the noise, high and mocking. "The whale is beaching herself." More laughter. Waves of it crashing over Melody as she lay there on the cold floor. Food in her hair. Tears streaming down her face. Her hands bleeding from the rough concrete. No one helped her up. Not one single person in that entire cafeteria moved to help her. She had had to gather her ruined lunch herself, crawl to her feet while everyone watched, walk to the bathroom to clean up while their laughter followed her down the hall. That was the day Melody learned to make herself invisible. The torment did not stop there. It never did once they smelled blood. Notes appeared in her locker. "Nobody will ever love you. Do the world a favor and disappear. Kill yourself, whale." She was excluded from every party, every group project, every social event. Boys asked her out as jokes, then laughed in her face when she said yes. They called her names she still heard in her nightmares: fat ugly, worthless, pathetic. She ate lunch in the library bathroom stall for 3 years. Sitting on the closed toilet lid, eating her sandwich in silence, crying into her napkin. The only place in the entire school where she felt safe. She graduated with honors. Valedictorian, actually, not that anyone came to watch her give the speech. No friends in the audience, no prom date memories, no yearbook signatures except from teachers who felt sorry for her. She was smart, she was kind, she was worthy of love. But no one had ever told her that, and she had stopped believing it was true. After high school, things changed. Slowly, painfully, she transformed herself. Lost weight, got contact lenses, learned to style her hair, to dress in clothes that fit, to walk with something resembling confidence. She was objectively attractive now. Men noticed her. Women complimented her. Strangers smiled at her on the street. But inside, she was still that girl on the cafeteria floor, still waiting for someone to kick her while she was down, still bracing for the cruelty she had learned to expect. She heard Victoria's voice every time she looked in the mirror. The whale is beaching herself. She had never had a real boyfriend. She pushed people away before they could reject her, ended things before they could end her. She was convinced that anyone who got close would eventually see what Victoria had seen: something unlovable, something broken, something not worth keeping. The invitation crinkled in her hands. Saturday night. 3 days away. She thought about Nathan Cole sitting in his truck agreeing to help a stranger he barely knew. The quiet strength in his eyes. The way he had said, "You do not have to pay me," like the idea offended him. He did not know her story. He did not know about the cafeteria floor or the bathroom stall or the notes in her locker. But he had agreed to stand beside her anyway. Maybe that was enough. Maybe just this once she would not have to face her demons alone. The days between Tuesday and Saturday passed in a strange blur. Everything looked the same on the surface. Melody worked her shifts at the cafe. Nathan went to his job site. The sun rose and set on schedule, but underneath something had changed. The air felt different now, charged with anticipation, heavy with unspoken questions. Nathan came to the cafe every morning like always, but their interactions had shifted, loaded with new meaning. He sat at his usual booth, but his eyes followed her now, watching her move between tables with something that looked like curiosity, interest, attention. Melody gave him her address the first morning, scribbling it on a napkin with hands that trembled slightly. "I am on the second floor," she said. "The buzzer does not work, so just text me when you are here." Nathan nodded, tucking the napkin into his pocket. "What time should I pick you up?" "The reunion starts at 7, maybe 6. So we have time to—" She trailed off, unsure how to finish. "Time to what?" "Rehearse their fake relationship. Get their story straight." 6 works, Nathan said. "I will be there." They texted awkwardly throughout the week, short messages about logistics and expectations. "What should I wear?" "Something nice, but not too formal." "What is our story?" "We met at the cafe 6 months ago. You asked me out. I said yes. Are there any topics I should avoid?" "Everything about my actual life." Neither mentioned the elephant in the room. They were both terrified. On Wednesday, Nathan told his mother about the plan. Eleanor looked at him like he had grown a second head. "You are going to a social event," she repeated, as if he had announced plans to climb Mount Everest. Voluntarily. "It is complicated," Nathan said, shifting uncomfortably. She needed help. I said yes. Eleanor studied him for a long moment, her sharp eyes taking in details he had hoped to hide. The tension in his shoulders, the slight flush on his cheeks, the way he could not quite meet her gaze. "Nathan," she said slowly, You have not done anything social since Grace died. Not one thing in 3 years. And now you are agreeing to be some woman's fake boyfriend for a high school reunion. She is not some woman. Her name is Melody. She works at the cafe I go to. The blonde one. With the pretty smile. Nathan looked at his mother sharply. How do you know what she looks like? You mentioned her once, about a year ago. Said she was the only person who asked about Lily's school play. Eleanor's expression softened. I pay attention, Nathan, even when you do not think I am listening. He did not know what to say to that. Maybe this is good for you. Eleanor continued, her voice gentler now. You have been in the dark for so long. Maybe it is time to let some light in. Nathan shook his head. It is not like that. I am just helping someone out. One night, that is all. But even as he said the words, he was not sure he believed them. Thursday evening, after Lily was in bed, Nathan noticed something that made his chest ache. She had been drawing at the kitchen table while he made dinner, her crayons scattered across the surface. When she went to brush her teeth, he glanced at what she had been working on. It was a picture of 3 people. A tall figure with dark hair, him clearly. A small figure with auburn hair holding a rabbit lily, and between them, where the middle person should be, was empty space. Just grass and sky and nothing. She had drawn her mother out of the picture. Nathan stood there for a long time, staring at that empty space. The blank spot where Grace used to be. The hole in their family that he had been trying so hard to fill and failing every single day. He was so lost in thought that he did not hear Lily come back into the room. Daddy. Her small voice made him jump. Why are you sad? He forced a smile, setting the drawing down. I am not sad, sweetheart. Just tired. Lily tilted her head, studying him with eyes that saw too much for a 7-year-old. You look different today, she said. Different how? She considered the question seriously, the way only children can. Less sad, she decided finally. Is it because of the coffee lady Nathan's breath caught? What, the lady at the coffee shop? You talk about her sometimes. Not a lot, but sometimes. Lily climbed into her chair at the table, reaching for her crayons. She sounds nice. Nathan did not know how to respond. He had not realized Lily had been listening, had not realized he had been talking about Melody at all. But apparently, even in his silence, some things came through. Friday night, Nathan stood in his closet for the first time in years, actually looking at the clothes hanging there. Most of it was work stuff, flannel shirts and jeans and clothes meant to get dirty. But pushed to the back, still in its dry cleaning bag, was a dark blue suit. Grace had picked it out for their 5th wedding anniversary. She had insisted he needed something nice, something that made him look put together instead of like a man who wrestles lumber for a living. He had worn it exactly 3 times. Their anniversary dinner, her funeral, and nothing since. Nathan pulled the suit from the closet, holding it up to catch the light. It still fit, he thought. Maybe a little snug across the shoulders, he had put on muscle since then, but it would work. I hope this is okay, he whispered to the empty room, to the memory of Grace that lingered in every corner. I hope you would understand. He laid the suit on his bed and went to tuck Lily in for the night. Daddy, she said as he pulled her covers up, will you be happy tomorrow? The question caught him off guard. What do you mean, sweetheart? You are going somewhere special tomorrow, right? Grandma said so. Lily clutched Mr. Whiskers to her chest. I want you to be happy. You are not happy very much. Nathan's throat tightened. He bent down to kiss her forehead, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. I am going to try, he said. For you, I am going to try to be happy. Lily smiled small but real and closed her eyes. Nathan watched her sleep for a long moment before quietly leaving the room. Tomorrow was Saturday. Tomorrow everything would change. He did not know if he was ready, but for Lily, he would try. Saturday arrived faster than either of them was prepared for. The sky was overcast gray clouds hanging low over Millbrook like a held breath. The air smelled like rain and dead leaves, autumn making its presence known. Nathan spent the morning with Lily trying to act normal. They ate breakfast together, watched cartoons, played with Mr. Whiskers in the backyard. But his mind kept drifting to the evening ahead to the woman he had agreed to pretend to love. At 4 o'clock, he dropped Lily at Eleanor's house. His mother met him at the door, taking in his freshly shaved face and the garment bag over his arm. "Well," she said, her eyebrows rising, "you clean up nice." "Do not," Nathan warned. "I am nervous enough already." Eleanor softened, reaching up to straighten his collar. "You are going to be fine. Just be yourself. Myself has not been great company lately. Then be the person you used to be. Before." She paused, her hand resting on his chest. "Grace would want you to live again, Nathan. She would want you to be happy." He nodded, not trusting his voice, and kissed her cheek before heading to his truck. The drive to Melody's apartment took 15 minutes. 15 minutes of gripping the steering wheel too tight, of rehearsing what he would say, of fighting the urge to turn around and drive straight home. But he did not turn around. He pulled up to the address she had given him, parked on the street, and texted her. "I am here." 3 dots appeared. Then, coming down. Nathan got out of the truck and waited by the passenger door. He was wearing the blue suit, the one Grace had picked out, with a white shirt underneath and no tie. He had tried 3 different ties before giving up entirely. The door to the building opened and Melody stepped out. Nathan forgot how to breathe. She was wearing a red dress. Not just red, a deep, rich crimson that seemed to glow against the gray October sky. The dress hugged her curves in all the right places, sophisticated, but bold, the kind of thing that made a statement without saying a word. Her blonde hair cascaded over her shoulders in soft waves, catching the light from the street lamp. She had done her makeup subtle, natural, highlighting her green eyes that seemed even more vibrant than usual. She wore red heels that made her legs look impossibly long, and she carried a small clutch purse that matched her dress. Everything about her was polished, elegant, transformed. She looked absolutely stunning and absolutely terrified. "Is this too much?" she asked immediately, her hands twisting together in front of her. "I can change. I probably look ridiculous. I do not know what I was thinking." "You look beautiful," Nathan said. The word stopped her mid-sentence. She blinked at him, uncertainty flickering across her features. "What?" "You look beautiful," he repeated more firmly this time. "Seriously, do not change anything." Melody stared at him like she was waiting for the punchline, like she expected him to take it back to laugh to reveal that it had all been a cruel joke. But Nathan's expression was steady, genuine, the same quiet sincerity she had seen in him every morning at the cafe. He meant it. Something shifted in her chest, a crack in the armor she had built around herself, a tiny ray of light breaking through. "Thank you," she whispered. Nathan opened the passenger door for her, then helped her navigate the step up in her heels. The truck was clean, actually clean, not just the surface-level tidying he usually did. He had vacuumed the seats and wiped down the dashboard and even hung a new air freshener from the mirror. "You cleaned," Melody observed surprise in her voice. "Seemed like the least I could do." She smiled, small but real, and some of the tension left her shoulders. The drive to the country club took 20 minutes. They used the time to get their story straight, running through the details like actors rehearsing a play. "We met at the cafe 6 months ago," Melody said. "You asked me out after I remembered your daughter's birthday." Lily, Nathan supplied. "She is 7, loves purple, has a stuffed rabbit named Mr. Whiskers." "Right. And we have been dating since then. Taking things slow because you have a daughter." What do I do for work? Construction foreman. You are building that new shopping center on Route 12. Nathan nodded, impressed, despite himself. She had clearly been thinking about this. Planning. Preparing. What should I know about you? He asked. Besides the cafe stuff. Melody hesitated. I like books. A lot. Probably too much. I live alone. I have never been married. I do not have family. The last part came out quieter, heavier. I lost my parents when I was 6. She continued, her voice careful and controlled. Grew up in foster care mostly. My aunt took me in when I was 10, but she passed away 2 years ago. Nathan absorbed this information, filling in the gaps of the woman beside him. The loneliness made more sense now. The desperation in the parking lot. The way she had said, I do not have anyone like it, was a confession. I am sorry, he said. That must have been hard. It was. It is. She shrugged, a practiced gesture of dismissal. But I survived. That is something. The country club appeared ahead, lit up against the darkening sky. The parking lot was already filling with expensive cars, BMWs and Mercedes, and the occasional Tesla. Former classmates climbing out in designer clothes, confident smiles, the easy arrogance of people who had never questioned their place in the world. Melody's hands started shaking. Nathan noticed immediately. Without a word, he reached over and took her hand, wrapping his calloused fingers around her trembling ones. We are in this together, he said quietly. You are not alone tonight. She squeezed back, drawing strength from his steady presence. Okay, she whispered. Let us do this. They walked toward the entrance together, Nathan's hand resting on the small of her back. The warmth of his palm through the thin fabric of her dress grounded her, reminded her that she was not facing this alone. For the first time in 10 years, Melody Harper walked toward her past instead of running from it. The Millbrook Country Club ballroom had been transformed. Silver and blue streamers hung from the ceiling, the school colors that Melody had once hated and now barely remembered caring about. A banner stretched across the far wall. Welcome back, class of 2012, in glittering letters that caught the light. Round tables dotted the room, each decorated with centerpieces of blue flowers and silver ribbons. A DJ booth stood in the corner, pumping out songs from their high school years, songs Melody had listened to alone in her bedroom, dreaming of a life that did not feel so small. Photo displays lined the walls. Yearbook pictures blown up to embarrassing sizes, capturing the awkwardness of adolescence in painful detail. Melody spotted her own photo almost immediately, a girl with frizzy hair and thick glasses. Her smile forced and uncertain, her eyes already learning to look away. She looked away now, too. Former classmates filled the room, clustered in groups that probably had not changed much since graduation. The jocks still stuck together broader now, but with the same loud confidence. The popular girls huddled in a corner, their designer dresses and diamonds marking territory as clearly as their positions had 10 years ago. Melody felt Nathan's hand tighten on her back, steadying her. You okay? He murmured. Working on it. They had barely taken 3 steps into the room before the whispers started. Is that Melody Harper? No way. She looks completely different. Who is the guy she is with? He is gorgeous. I heard she works at some diner or something. Could not even get a real job. Well, at least she lost the weight. Remember how fat she was? Melody heard every word. She had always been good at hearing the things people said about her, even when they thought they were being quiet. But tonight, something was different. Tonight, she had Nathan beside her. She stood a little taller, let her shoulders fall back, met the curious stares head-on instead of looking at the floor. Nathan played his part perfectly. He stayed close, attentive, his body language telegraphing possession and protection. He looked at her like she was the only person in the room worth seeing, and slowly the whispers shifted. Okay, but seriously, who is that guy? She must be doing something right. I am actually kind of impressed. They found a table near the back, away from the main crowd. Melody sank into her chair, her knees shaking beneath her dress. That was not so bad, Nathan said, taking the seat beside her. The hard part is over. We got through the door. Melody let out a shaky laugh. The door was the easy part. The hard part is well, Melody Harper. The voice sliced through the room like a knife. Melody's whole body went rigid. She did not need to turn around to know who was standing behind her. She had been hearing that voice in her nightmares for 10 years. Victoria Ashford Mitchell stood there, a glass of champagne in her manicured hand, her smile sharp as broken glass. She was still beautiful, blonde hair perfectly styled, a designer dress that probably cost more than Melody's rent diamonds dripping from her ears and neck. But there was something hard around her eyes now, something brittle beneath the polished surface. Her husband stood behind her, a tall man in an expensive suit who looked like he would rather be anywhere else. His eyes were on his phone, barely paying attention to his wife or anything around him. I almost did not recognize you. Victoria continued, her voice carrying that familiar saccharine sweetness that had always preceded cruelty. You look so different. Victoria. Melody forced the name out through clenched teeth. Nice to see you. Victoria's laugh was like tinkling glass. I was not sure you would actually come. You always were so shy. The emphasis on the last word made it sound like an insult, because it was. Victoria's eyes slid to Nathan, giving him a slow, appraising look. And who is this? Do not tell me you actually found someone. Melody opened her mouth to respond, but Nathan spoke first. Nathan Cole. His voice was calm, steady, utterly unimpressed. Melody's boyfriend. And you are... The question threw Victoria off balance. She was not used to being unknown to having to introduce herself. She recovered quickly, but Melody caught the flicker of irritation in her eyes. Victoria Ashford Mitchell. Melody and I go way back. She smiled, all teeth. High school friends. Nathan repeated the word flatly, making it clear he did not believe it for a second. Victoria's smile faltered just for a moment. Then she turned her attention back to Melody, clearly deciding that Nathan was not worth the effort. It is just so wonderful that you are here, Victoria said, her voice dripping with false warmth. I mean, some of us remember what you used to look like. It must feel nice to finally fit in. The words landed exactly where they were aimed, digging into wounds that had never fully healed. But I suppose anyone can buy a nice dress and play pretend for a night, right? She laughed, and a few people around her chuckled nervously the way people do when they are not sure if they are supposed to be in on the joke. Melody felt herself shrinking, becoming small again. 14 years old on that cafeteria floor, covered in food, listening to laughter that would haunt her for decades. Her vision blurred. She could feel tears threatening to spill, could feel herself unraveling all the courage she had gathered falling away like sand through her fingers. She started to stand, ready to run, ready to escape, ready to add this night to the list of times she had let Victoria Ashford win. And then Nathan moved. Something shifted in Nathan's expression. The quiet, reserved man who had sat in the corner booth for 2 years disappeared completely. In his place was someone harder, colder, forged in the same fires that had burned Melody all those years ago. Because Nathan Cole knew exactly what Victoria Ashford was. He had met 100 people like her in his life. People who tore others down to build themselves up. People who smiled while they destroyed you. People who never faced consequences for their cruelty because the world rewarded beauty and confidence even when both were hollow. He had been their target once. He knew the scars they left behind. And he was done watching it happen to someone else. Excuse me, Nathan said, his voice cutting through Victoria's laughter. She turned, surprised. She had expected him to stay silent, to play the supportive boyfriend who knew his place. That is what men like him were supposed to do. I am sorry, Nathan continued, rising to his feet. I just want to make sure I am understanding this correctly. His voice was not loud, but it carried. People at nearby tables stopped their conversations, turning to watch. The DJ lowered the music slightly, sensing something happening. Understanding what Victoria asked, her smile turning uncertain. You have spent the last 5 minutes making passive-aggressive comments about a woman you claim to be friends with. Nathan's eyes locked onto hers, unflinching. You have insulted her appearance, questioned whether anyone could want her, implied that she does not belong here. I was just joking. You were not joking. You were being cruel. Nathan stepped forward, and Victoria actually took a step back. I have met women like you before. People who are so miserable inside that they have to tear others down to feel anything at all. Gasps rippled through the crowd. No one spoke to Victoria Ashford that way. No one ever had. You spent high school making her life miserable. Nathan continued, his voice steady as granite. You called her names. You humiliated her. You made her feel like she was worthless, like she did not deserve to take up space in the world. Victoria's face went pale. Her husband had finally looked up from his phone, watching the scene with detached curiosity. I know because she told me. And I know because I was that kid once. The one everyone mocked. The one who wore clothes that did not fit because my family could not afford new ones. The one who ate lunch alone because the cafeteria was not safe. His jaw tightened, old pain surfacing for just a moment before he pushed it back down. So I recognize what you are. I recognize the way you smile while you are destroying someone. I recognize the cruelty you dress up as jokes. Nathan glanced at Melody, saw the tears streaming down her cheeks, saw the way she was looking at him like he was something impossible. Then he turned back to Victoria. But here is what you do not understand. Melody did not need to come here tonight. She did not need to prove anything to you or anyone else. She came because she wanted to show herself that she survived, that she is still here, that you did not break her. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to something almost intimate. And she is still here. She is kind, and she is hard-working, and she remembers every customer's name at the cafe where she works. She asks about people's days. She remembers their kids' birthdays. She gives more of herself to strangers than you have probably given to anyone in your entire life. Victoria's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. You see someone to mock, Nathan, said quietly. I see someone extraordinary who survived people like you, and I am grateful every single day that she gave me a chance. He turned to Melody, his expression softening instantly. Dance with me. He held out his hand. Melody took it. Nathan led her onto the dance floor, leaving Victoria standing there alone, speechless for perhaps the first time in her life. Her husband had already wandered off toward the bar, disinterested in his wife's social drama. The crowd parted for them. The DJ reading the room switched to a slow song, something soft and romantic that filled the space with gentle melody. Nathan pulled Melody close, one hand on her waist, the other holding her fingers. They swayed together, not really dancing, just moving. No one has ever done that for me, Melody whispered, her voice thick with tears. Ever. In my entire life, no one has ever stood up for me like that. Nathan looked down at her, and something in his chest cracked open. He had felt dead for 3 years. Numb. Existing but not living. But looking at Melody now, seeing the way she looked at him like he was something precious, he felt alive again. Then everyone else was blind, he said simply. They danced in silence for a while, the rest of the room fading into background noise. Other couples joined them on the floor, but Nathan and Melody moved like they were the only people in the world. I thought this was pretend, Melody said softly. So did I. She looked up at him, green eyes meeting blue. What is it now? Nathan did not answer with words. He just held her closer, his hand spreading across her back, his chin resting against her temple. Across the room, Victoria Ashford Mitchell sat alone at a table. Her husband was at the bar laughing at something someone else had said. Her friends had scattered, uncomfortable with what had just happened. She stared at her champagne glass, watching the bubbles rise and pop, and for the first time in her perfect privileged life, she felt something she could not name. It was not anger. It was not embarrassment. It was recognition. She watched Nathan hold Melody like she was the most precious thing in the world. Watched the way they looked at each other like nothing else mattered. Watched a connection so genuine it almost hurt to see. And she realized with sudden, devastating clarity that no one had ever looked at her that way. Not her husband, not her friends, not anyone. She had spent her whole life making people feel small because it was the only way she knew how to feel big. And in the end, she was the smallest one in the room. Victoria set down her champagne and quietly left the party before anyone noticed she was gone. They left the reunion early. Neither of them wanted to stay to make small talk with people who did not matter, to pretend the evening had not already given them more than they had bargained for. The night air was cold when they stepped outside, but it felt refreshing after the stuffy ballroom. Stars had appeared while they were inside, scattered across the sky like scattered promises. They walked to Nathan's truck in comfortable silence, their footsteps crunching on the gravel parking lot. He opened the door for her, helped her climb up in her heels, then circled around to the driver's side. But he did not start the engine. They just sat there in the quiet darkness, processing everything that had happened. "Thank you," Melody said finally. "For what you did in there. For what you said." Nathan shook his head. "I just told the truth. You did more than that. You defended me. You stood up for me." Her voice cracked. "No one has ever done that before. Not once in my entire life. Then everyone in your life has been wrong." Melody turned to look at him, really look at him in the dim light from the parking lot lamps. His profile was sharp and strong, his jaw set with quiet determination. But there was vulnerability there, too, wounds that matched her own. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Anything. What you said in there. About being that kid, the one everyone mocked." She paused. "Was that true?" Nathan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "Yeah, it was true. I grew up poor. My dad left when I was 5. My mom worked 3 jobs just to keep a roof over our heads. I wore clothes from thrift stores, ate free lunch at school, got made fun of for everything I could not control." He gripped the steering wheel, staring out at the darkness. "They called me dumpster boy. Trash kid. Said I would never be anything. Said no one would ever want someone like me." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Sound familiar?" "Yeah," Melody whispered. "It does. I built myself up after that. Got strong, got successful, made something of my life." He paused. "But the scars do not go away. You just learn to hide them better." They sat in silence, 2 people who had been broken in the same ways, finding recognition in each other's wounds. "This was supposed to be pretend," Melody said softly. Was it Nathan turned to look at her, his blue eyes catching the light? The question hung between them, heavy with meaning. "I do not know anymore," Melody admitted. "I thought I just needed someone to stand beside me so I did not feel small. But you..." She trailed off, searching for words. "You did not just stand beside me. You saw me. Really saw me. The way no one ever has." Nathan reached over and took her hand the same way he had before they walked into the reunion, but this time it felt different, charged with something new. I have been dead inside for 3 years, he said quietly. Since my wife died. I have been going through the motions, existing but not living. Coming to your cafe every morning was the only thing that felt real. Melody's breath caught. Why? Because you noticed me. You remembered my daughter's name. You asked about my day, even when I barely answered. He squeezed her hand. You saw me too. The weight of the moment pressed down on them both. This was not supposed to happen. This was supposed to be one night, one favor, one pretend relationship to survive a high school reunion. But sometimes life does not care about our plans. I should take you home, Nathan said finally, his voice rough. Melody nodded, not trusting herself to speak. He started the truck and pulled out of the parking lot. The drive back to her apartment was quiet, but not uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people who had said everything that mattered, and now just needed time to let it settle. When they pulled up to her building, Nathan parked and walked her to the door. They stood on the sidewalk, neither wanting to be the first to say goodbye. Thank you, Melody said again, for everything, for tonight, for defending me, for being there. Thank you for asking me, Nathan replied. I know it took courage. She smiled, small but real. Desperation and courage look pretty similar sometimes. He smiled back, and for just a moment he looked like someone she had never seen before. Someone without the weight of grief pressing down on his shoulders. Someone who remembered how to be happy. Good night, Melody, he said. Good night, Nathan. She turned toward the door, but his voice stopped her. Melody. She looked back. Same time tomorrow at the cafe. Something warm bloomed in her chest, a feeling she barely recognized. Hope. Same time tomorrow, she agreed. She watched him drive away, standing on the sidewalk until his taillights disappeared around the corner. Then she went upstairs, closed her apartment door behind her, and let the tears come. But they were not sad tears. Not anymore. For the first time in as long as she could remember, Melody Harper felt like she might be worthy of love after all. Sunday morning arrived gray and quiet, the sky heavy with clouds that threatened rain but never delivered. Melody woke before dawn, her mind still spinning with everything that had happened the night before. She lay in bed for a long time, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment. Nathan's hand on her back as they walked into the reunion. Victoria's cruel smile faltering. The way he had defended her, his voice steady and sure, like he was stating facts instead of fighting battles. The way he had looked at her when they danced, like she was the only person in the room worth seeing. She got up, made coffee, and tried to act like it was a normal Sunday. But she kept checking her phone, waiting for something she could not name. At 6:52 a.m., the same time Nathan always arrived at the cafe on weekdays, her phone buzzed. Are you working today? Melody's. Heart skipped. She typed back quickly, trying to seem casual. I am off on Sundays. A pause. Then, would you want to get breakfast somewhere? I have Lily this afternoon, but the morning is free. Yes. The word came out before she could second-guess herself. Yes, I would like that. They met at a small diner on the other side of town, somewhere neither of them was known. Neutral territory for whatever this was becoming. Nathan was already there when she arrived, sitting in a booth by the window. He stood when he saw her, and something in his expression made her stomach flutter. Hi, she said, suddenly nervous. Hi. They sat across from each other, menus between them like props in a play neither knew the lines to. So Nathan said, Last night. Last night, Melody agreed. A beat of silence. Then they both laughed, the tension breaking like a wave. I do not know what I am doing, Nathan admitted. I have not dated anyone since my wife. I do not remember how this works. I have never really dated at all, Melody said. So we are both learning. They ordered coffee black for him, cream and sugar for her, and talked. Really talked in a way they never had at the cafe, with its time constraints and watching coworkers and pretense of customer and server. Nathan told her about Grace, how they had met at a construction site where she was doing the accounting, how she had made him laugh for the first time in years, how they had built a life together brick by brick, and then had it torn away without warning. She was everything he said quietly, and then she was gone, and I did not know how to be anything anymore. Melody listened without interrupting, seeing the grief that still lived in his eyes, the love that had not faded even after 3 years. "You must miss her so much," she said. "Every day. But lately—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Lately, the missing has been different. Less like drowning and more like carrying something heavy. It is still there, but I can breathe." What changed? Nathan looked at her across the table, and the answer was in his eyes before he spoke it. "You." The word hung in the air between them. "I know that sounds crazy," he continued quickly. "We barely know each other. But you saw me. When I felt invisible, you noticed. And I think maybe that is what I needed. Someone who could see past the grief to the person underneath." Melody's eyes filled with tears. "I know exactly what you mean." They talked for 3 hours until the diner started filling with the lunch crowd, and they realized they had been nursing the same cups of coffee the entire time. When Nathan drove her home, he walked her to her door again. But this time he did not just say goodbye. "I want to see you again," he said. "Not pretend. Not for an audience. Just you and me." Melody smiled, the expression feeling unfamiliar and wonderful on her face. "I would like that." "And Lily," Nathan added. "I want you to meet her properly. She has been asking about you." Something warm spread through Melody's chest. She calls you the coffee lady. She says I seem less sad when I talk about you." Tears threatened again. Melody blinked them back. "I would love to meet her." Nathan smiled, really smiled, the expression transforming his entire face, and Melody realized she was looking at the man he used to be. Before the grief, before the walls, before he forgot how to live. "Tomorrow?" he asked. "I could bring her to the cafe after school tomorrow," Melody agreed. "I will make sure to have hot chocolate ready." It was a small thing, a simple plan, but it felt like the beginning of something enormous. The weeks that followed were a revelation. Lily came to the cafe that Monday afternoon holding Nathan's hand and wearing her favorite purple sweater. She was shy at first, hiding behind her father's legs, peeking out at Melody with curious blue eyes. "Hi, Lily," Melody said, crouching down to the little girl's level. "I am Melody. Your dad has told me so much about you." "You are the coffee lady," Lily said, her voice small but certain. "I am. And I heard you like hot chocolate. Would you like some?" Lily looked up at Nathan, seeking permission. He nodded, and she turned back to Melody with a tiny smile. "Yes, please." They sat in Nathan's usual booth. His booth, the corner one by the window, which felt right somehow, and Melody brought over 3 drinks. Black coffee for Nathan, hot chocolate with extra whipped cream for Lily, and a cappuccino for herself. "Daddy says you are nice," Lily announced, stirring her hot chocolate with grave concentration. "Lily," Nathan started, embarrassed. "He says you remember things about people, like how I like purple and how I had a cold 2 weeks ago." She looked up at Melody with an intensity that seemed too old for 7. "Do you remember things about Daddy, too?" Melody met Nathan's eyes across the table. "I remember everything," she said softly. "I remember that he always says please and thank you. I remember that he tips too much. I remember that he looks tired, but he always has time to talk even when he does not feel like it. Lily nodded, satisfied. Good. Because Daddy needs someone to notice him. He does not think anyone does. The simple observation cracked something open in Nathan's chest. He looked at his daughter, this small person who saw more than he had ever given her credit for, and felt tears prick at his eyes. I notice him, Melody said, her voice gentle. I promise. From that day forward, Melody became a regular fixture in their lives. She came over for dinner 3 nights a week, helping Lily with homework while Nathan cooked. She taught Lily to bake cookies, real cookies, not the burnt attempts Nathan produced, and the kitchen filled with laughter and flour and warmth. On weekends, they went to the park together. Nathan pushed Lily on the swings while Melody watched from a bench, a book open on her lap that she never quite managed to read. They got ice cream even though it was October and too cold for frozen treats. They took walks through the neighborhood, Lily chattering about school and her friends and Mr. Whisker's latest adventures. They were becoming a family. Slowly, carefully, without anyone naming it aloud. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Nathan found Melody standing in the living room looking at the photographs of Grace that covered the walls. She was beautiful, Melody said softly. She was. Nathan came to stand beside her. Does it bother you? All these pictures? Melody shook her head. She was Lily's mother. She was your wife. She is part of your story. She turned to look at him. I am not trying to replace her, Nathan. I am not trying to make you forget. I know. He took her hand. And I want you to know what I feel for you is not about filling a hole she left. It is about... He struggled for words. It is about something new, something different. You are not a replacement for Grace. You are Melody, and I am falling for you. Just you. Tears slipped down Melody's cheeks. I have never been anyone's first choice, she whispered. I have never been the one someone wanted to keep. Nathan cupped her face in his hands, wiping her tears with his thumbs. You are my choice, he said. Every day. You are my choice. He kissed her, then soft and slow, a promise without words. And Melody let herself believe for the first time in her life that maybe she deserved to be loved after all. Later, as they sat on the couch with the lights dimmed and the house quiet around them, Lily appeared in the doorway. She was wearing her purple pajamas, Mr. Whiskers clutched against her chest, her hair sleep-tangled. I had a bad dream, she said, her voice wobbly. Melody opened her arms without thinking. Come here, sweetheart. Lily climbed onto the couch between them, nestling against Melody's side like it was the most natural thing in the world. Nathan wrapped an arm around both of them, pulling his 2 girls close. What was the dream about? Melody asked softly. I dreamed you went away, Lily whispered. Like Mommy did. I dreamed you left and did not come back. Melody's heart broke. She held Lily tighter. I am not going anywhere, she said. I promise. You promise, I promise. Lily was quiet for a moment, her small fingers playing with the hem of Melody's shirt. Then she asked the question that changed everything. Are you going to be my new mommy? Nathan's breath caught. Melody went very still. Honey, Nathan said carefully. It is. It is complicated. Melody and I are... I know she is not my real mommy. Lily interrupted. My real mommy is in heaven with the angels. But you can have 2 mommies, right? A real one and a here one. Melody looked at Nathan over Lily's head, her eyes bright with unshed tears. What do you think, sweetheart? She asked, Lily gently. Would you want me to be your here one? Lily nodded solemnly. I have been asking Mommy about it, in my prayers. I told her Daddy was sad all the time and needed someone to make him happy again. And then you showed up. She looked at Melody with those clear blue eyes. I think she sent you to us. The words hung in the air, innocent and profound. Nathan's throat tightened. He thought about all the times he had prayed in the months after Grace died, begging for the pain to stop, begging for some sign that things would get better. Maybe this was his answer. We will take it slow, Melody said, stroking Lily's hair. One day at a time. But I am here. I am not going anywhere. And I love you both very much. She had not meant to say the last part. It slipped out, unplanned and raw, the truth she had been afraid to speak. Nathan reached over Lily's head and took Melody's hand. We love you too, he said. And just like that, they were a family. 2 months into their relationship, Nathan found something that changed everything. He was helping Lily clean her room, a task that required negotiation, bribery, and at least 3 episodes of her favorite cartoon as reward when he noticed a piece of paper sticking out from under her bed. What is this, sweetheart? Lily glanced over and immediately tried to grab it. Nothing. It is private, but Nathan had already seen enough. It was a letter written in Lily's careful, lopsided handwriting. The kind of letter she sometimes wrote in school for assignments. Dear Mommy in Heaven, it began. Lily. Nathan's voice was soft. Can I read this? She hesitated, then nodded slowly. I wrote it for school. We had to write a letter to someone important. Miss Thompson said I could write to Mommy even though she is not here anymore. Nathan sat down on Lily's bed, the letter trembling in his hands. Lily climbed up beside him, leaning against his shoulder. He began to read. Dear Mommy in Heaven, I hope you are okay up there with the angels. Daddy says you are watching us from the clouds and that you can still hear me when I pray. I hope that is true because I have something important to tell you. Daddy met someone. Her name is Melody. She has yellow hair and a pretty smile, and she makes really good cookies. Not as good as yours, but close. I know you might be worried. I was worried too at first. I did not want Daddy to forget you. But he has not, Mommy. He still looks at your pictures every night. He still talks to you when he thinks I am asleep. He still cries sometimes when he thinks I cannot hear. But now he also smiles. He laughs at Melody's jokes even when they are not that funny. He sings in the shower again like he used to. He is happy, Mommy. Really happy. I think you sent her to us. I think you heard me praying and you found someone to take care of us because you cannot do it yourself anymore. Is that right? Did you send her? I love Melody. I did not think I would, but I do. She reads me stories and helps me with homework, and she does not get mad when I mess up. She looks at me like I am important. Mommy, is it okay if I love her? Is it okay if Daddy does too? I do not want you to be sad or jealous. You are still my real Mommy. You will always be my real Mommy. But I think my heart is big enough for both of you. Do not you think so too? Please tell God I said hi, and please ask him to make sure Melody stays. I do not want Daddy to be sad again. I love you forever and always. Your Lily. P.S. Mr. Whiskers says hi too. He still sleeps with me every night just like you wanted. Nathan could not see the paper anymore. His vision had blurred completely, tears streaming down his face in a way he had not allowed himself in years. This was his daughter, his little girl who had lost her mother at 4 years old and somehow still had room in her heart for hope, for love, for believing that the universe might send them exactly what they needed. Daddy Lily's voice was worried. Why are you crying? Did I do something wrong? No, sweetheart. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. You did everything right. You did everything exactly right. That night, after Lily was asleep, Nathan showed Melody the letter. She read it slowly, her hands trembling, tears falling onto the paper before she could stop them. When she finished, she could not speak, could not move, could only sit there as the words sank in. She wants me to stay, she finally whispered. So do I. Nathan took the letter from her hands, setting it aside. He turned to face her, fully taking both her hands in his. I have been trying to find the right time to say this. He said, his voice rough with emotion. The right words, the right moment. But I do not think it exists. There is no perfect way to say what I feel. Melody waited, her heart pounding. I love you, Melody. The words came out strong and certain. I never thought I would feel this again. After Grace, I thought that part of me was dead. But you brought me back. You brought both of us back. She was crying openly now, tears streaming down her face. I have never said that to anyone, she admitted. Not like this, not meaning it. You do not have to. I love you too. The words tumbled out, unstoppable. I love you, Nathan. I love Lily. I love this family we are building. I have been so scared to say it because everyone I have ever loved has left me. But you are still here. You are both still here. He pulled her close, holding her while she cried, holding her while she let go of years of loneliness and fear and self-doubt. I am not going anywhere, he said against her hair. Neither of us is. You are stuck with us now. She laughed through her tears. Promise, I promise. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, letting the weight of the words settle around them. The next morning, Lily came down for breakfast and found them making pancakes together. Melody was flipping while Nathan attempted to create Mickey Mouse shapes that looked more like abstract art. Did you tell her Daddy? Lily asked, sliding into her chair. Tell her what? That she can stay. Lily looked at Melody with hopeful eyes. Forever. Nathan and Melody exchanged a look, a smile, a silent conversation that needed no words. Yeah, baby, Nathan said, pulling his daughter into a hug. She is staying. Forever, Melody knelt down to Lily's level, taking her small hands. Forever, she promised. And Lily's smile was the brightest it had been since her mother died. For 3 months, everything was perfect, or as close to perfect as life ever gets. Melody spent most of her free time at Nathan's house now. She had a toothbrush in his bathroom, a drawer for her clothes, a spot on the couch that had become unofficially hers. Lily had started calling her Mama Mel, the name appearing one day without fanfare, as natural as breathing. They were a family. It felt real and solid and true. But the voices in Melody's head had never really gone away. They had just been drowned out by happiness, waiting for a quiet moment to resurface. That moment came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Melody was cleaning Nathan's living room while he was at work. She had taken to tidying up when she was there, needing to feel useful to prove her worth. She was dusting the bookshelf when she knocked something over. A photo album. It fell open on the floor, pages fanning out to reveal image after image of Grace. Grace on her wedding day, radiant in white. Grace holding newborn Lily, glowing despite her exhaustion. Grace at the beach, laughing, her dark hair whipping in the wind. Grace who had been beautiful and thin and perfect. Everything Melody was not. She sat down on the floor, the album in her lap, and let the old voices wash over her. Look at her. Look at what he had. And look at you. How can you possibly think you compare? She is everything you will never be. Thin, beautiful, the kind of woman who deserves a man like Nathan. You are just a consolation prize, someone to fill the empty space until something better comes along. Melody knew these thoughts were not rational. She knew they were lies, the same lies Victoria had told her, the same lies she had internalized so deeply they felt like truth. But knowing and feeling are two different things. That night when Nathan came home, he found her quiet, distant. She made dinner and helped Lily with homework and went through all the motions, but something was wrong. He could see it in the way she avoided his eyes. "Hey." He caught her arm as she was loading the dishwasher. "What is going on?" "Nothing." She forced a smile. "Just tired." "Melody." His voice was gentle but firm. "Talk to me." She crumbled. "I found the photo album," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The one with pictures of Grace." Nathan's expression shifted. Understanding dawned. And she was beautiful, Nathan. She was thin and perfect and everything I am not." Melody's voice cracked. "How can you possibly want me when you had her? I am just... Do not." Nathan took her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Do not do that. Do not compare yourself to her. How can I not? Because you are not in competition with her. You never were." He wiped a tear from her cheek. "Grace was wonderful. I loved her. But she is gone, Melody. And you are here. You are real. You are warm. You make Lily laugh. You make me want to wake up in the morning." She shook her head, the old voices still screaming. "I am not comparing you to her," Nathan continued. "I am not looking at you and wishing you were different. I fell in love with you, with your kindness and your strength, and yes, your body exactly as it is." "Nathan, you are beautiful to me," he said fiercely, "not in spite of who you are, but because of it. Every part of you, every inch, every imperfection. You are beautiful because you are you." Melody stared at him through her tears. No one had ever said anything like that to her. No one had ever looked at her the way he was looking at her now, like she was precious, like she was enough. "I am scared," she admitted. "I am so scared this will fall apart. That you will wake up one day and realize I am not what you want." "I am scared too," Nathan said. "I am terrified of losing someone I love again. But I am more scared of losing you because I did not fight hard enough to keep you." He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. "We are both broken, Melody. We are both scared. But we do not have to be scared alone. We can be scared together." She laughed through her tears, a wet hiccuping sound. "That is not very romantic." "Maybe not. But it is honest." He pulled back to look at her. "I choose you. Every day I choose you. And I am going to keep choosing you until you believe it. What if I never believe it? Then I will keep telling you until you do." She kissed him, then tasting salt from her tears. It was not a perfect kiss. It was messy and wet and full of emotion. It was exactly what they both needed. A few weeks later, another challenge appeared, this time from an unexpected source. Eleanor Cole had been supportive of Nathan's relationship with Melody. She had welcomed her to Sunday dinners, praised her influence on Lily, expressed genuine happiness at seeing her son smile again. But Eleanor was also a mother. And mothers worry. One Sunday afternoon, while Melody was in the backyard playing with Lily, Eleanor pulled Nathan aside. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice careful in a way that immediately put him on guard. "What is wrong?" "Nothing is wrong exactly. She paused, choosing her words. "I want to make sure you have thought this through." "Thought what through, Melody?" "This relationship." Eleanor's eyes were gentle but concerned. "You have been through so much, Nathan. Losing Grace nearly destroyed you, and now you are moving so fast with this woman, and I am worried." "Worried about what?" "Worried that you are not ready, that you are rushing into something because you are lonely, not because it is right." She held up a hand when he started to protest. "I like Melody, I do. She is sweet and she is good with Lily. But are you sure she is right for you?" Nathan felt his defenses rising. What does that mean? It means... Eleanor sighed. I do not know. I just want you to be happy, really happy, not just filling a void. For a long moment, Nathan did not respond. He looked out the kitchen window, watching Melody push Lily on the tire swing he had hung from the old oak tree. They were both laughing, their faces bright with joy. Mom, he said quietly, do you know what I was like before Melody? Of course I do. I watched you every day. Then you know I was not living. I was surviving, going through the motions, trying to be enough for Lily and failing. He turned to face his mother. I cried in the shower every night so she would not hear me. I could not cook anything that did not taste like grief. I forgot how to laugh, how to smile, how to feel anything at all. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Melody changed that Nathan continued. Not because she filled Grace's place. Grace's place can never be filled. But because she helped me find mine again. She saw me when I felt invisible. She loved Lily when I was not sure I could love anything anymore. He took his mother's hands. I know you are scared. I know you are worried about me getting hurt. But Mom, his voice cracked. She is the best thing that has happened to me since Grace died. She makes me want to live again, not just exist. Is that not worth taking a risk? Eleanor was crying now, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. I am sorry, she said. I was not trying to. I know. Nathan pulled her into a hug. I know you are just looking out for me, but I need you to trust me. I need you to trust her. I do, Eleanor whispered. I do trust her. I cannot bear to see you hurt again. Then be happy for me. Be happy that I found someone who makes me want to try. They held each other for a long moment. Then Eleanor pulled back, wiping her eyes. You are right, she said. I have been so focused on protecting you that I forgot to celebrate with you. She looked out the window at Melody and Lily. She really is wonderful, is she not? Yeah. Nathan smiled, watching the woman he loved swing his daughter higher and higher. She really is. That evening, Eleanor asked Melody to help her with the dishes. They stood side by side at the sink, washing and drying in comfortable silence. I owe you an apology, Eleanor said finally. Melody looked up, surprised. For what? For doubting you. For worrying about whether you were right for my son. Eleanor handed her a plate to dry. I have watched you these past months. The way you love Lily. The way you look at Nathan. The way you have brought life back into this family. Melody did not know what to say. I was afraid, Eleanor continued. Afraid of change. Afraid of losing Nathan to someone new. She smiled, her eyes soft. But I see now that I am not losing him. I am gaining you. We all are. Tears pricked at Melody's eyes. Eleanor. Welcome to the family, sweetheart. Eleanor pulled her into a hug. Really welcome this time. And Melody finally felt like she belonged. 1 year. 1 year since a terrified woman chased a grieving man into a parking lot and asked him to pretend to be her boyfriend. 1 year since a desperate question changed both their lives forever. October had come around again, painting Millbrook in shades of orange and gold. The air was crisp, the sky impossibly blue, the kind of autumn day that felt like a gift. Nathan had been carrying the ring for 3 weeks. It was a simple band with a single diamond, not flashy or expensive, but perfect. Lily had helped him pick it out, her small face serious as she examined every option in the jewelry store. That one she had declared, pointing to the exact ring Nathan had been considering. It is pretty, but not too much. Like Melody. Now the ring sat in his pocket, warm against his thigh, waiting for the right moment. He had planned everything carefully. A return to where it all began, Rosie's Corner Cafe. The place where Melody had served him coffee every morning for 2 years. the place where she had first noticed him, the place where she had found the courage to ask for help. Nathan pulled up to the cafe at 6:52 p.m., the same time he used to arrive every morning but evening, now the sky darkening to purple at the edges. Melody was in the passenger seat, curious but unsuspecting. "Why are we here?" she asked. "The cafe is closed on Sundays." "I know." Nathan got out of the truck, walked around to open her door. "Come with me." The parking lot was empty except for one other car, Eleanor's, though Melody did not know that. Inside, through the windows, she could see candles flickering. "Nathan." "What?" "Trust me." He led her across the parking lot to the exact spot where she had chased him down a year ago. The spot where she had stood shivering in her thin sweater, asking a stranger to pretend to love her. Nathan stopped, turned to face her. "This is where you asked me to be your boyfriend for a day," he said. Melody smiled, remembering. "I was so scared. I thought you would say no. I thought you would think I was crazy. I thought you were brave." Nathan took her hands. "The bravest person I had ever met. Because asking for help is terrifying. Letting yourself be vulnerable, admitting you need someone that takes more courage than anything." Melody's breath caught. Something in his voice was different, weighted with meaning. "You changed my life that day," Nathan continued. "You did not know it, but you saved me. You gave me a reason to feel again, to live again." He reached into his pocket. That was supposed to be pretend. One day. One favor. He pulled out the ring box. "But I do not want to pretend anymore. I do not want one day. I want every day. I want forever." Melody's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Nathan dropped to one knee, opening the box to reveal the ring Lily had chosen. "Melody Harper, will you marry me? Not pretend, not for a day, but really truly for the rest of our lives." She could not speak, could not breathe, could only nod over and over, tears falling faster than she could wipe them away. "Yes," she finally managed. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." Nathan slid the ring onto her finger with trembling hands. Then he stood, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her while she laughed and cried at the same time. Behind them, the cafe door burst open. Lily came running out, Eleanor close behind both of them, cheering. "She said yes," Lily shouted, throwing herself at them both. "She said yes, I told you she would." Nathan laughed, lifting his daughter into their embrace. The three of them stood there in the parking lot, holding each other, crying and laughing and celebrating. "You were in on this?" Melody asked Lily. "I helped pick the ring," Lily said proudly. "And I made Daddy promise to propose here because this is where you met. It is like a fairy tale." Melody looked at Nathan over Lily's head. "You really planned this." "I told you," he said softly. "I choose you. Every day." Eleanor joined them, then pulling Melody into a fierce hug. "Welcome to the family," she said, echoing the words from months before. Officially this time. They went inside the cafe, where Eleanor had set up champagne and cake and flowers. They celebrated until late, laughing and crying and making plans for a future that felt for the first time absolutely certain. At the end of the night, as they were leaving, Melody stopped Nathan in the doorway. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For saying yes. That day in the parking lot. You could have walked away. You could have said no. But you did not." Nathan cupped her face in his hands. "Best decision I ever made," he said. "And I would make it again, 1,000 times over." He kissed her under the awning of Rose's Corner Cafe, exactly where their story began. 1 year ago, she had asked him to pretend. Now, neither of them had to pretend anything at all. The wedding was small and perfect. They held it in Eleanor's backyard on a crisp November afternoon, surrounded by fairy lights and autumn flowers and the people who mattered most. Melody wore a simple white dress that made her feel beautiful, her blonde hair cascading in soft waves adorned with wildflowers Lily had picked herself. Nathan cried when he saw her walking toward him. He had sworn he would not. But the moment she appeared at the end of the makeshift aisle, his eyes filled and overflowed. Lily walked beside Melody, holding her hand, because when Nathan had asked who should give her away, Melody had said without hesitation, "The person who brought us together." The ceremony was short and sweet. They wrote their own vows, stumbling over words that never seemed quite big enough for what they felt. "You taught me that I was worth loving," Melody said, her voice thick with tears. "You stood up for me when no one else ever had. You gave me a family when I thought I would be alone forever. I promised to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that." "You already are," Nathan said, taking her hands. "You were from the very first moment." His vows were simpler, more raw. "You brought me back to life," he said. "When I was drowning in grief, you reached in and pulled me out. You loved my daughter like your own. You saw me when I felt invisible. I promised to spend every day showing you how grateful I am, how lucky I am, how much I love you." Lily served as flower girl ring-bearer and self-appointed official cake supervisor. She took all three roles very seriously, scattering petals with grave concentration and keeping a watchful eye on the dessert table throughout the reception. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Lily cheered louder than anyone. The reception was casual and warm, just close friends Nathan's construction crew regulars from the cafe who had watched their story unfold. They danced under strings of lights while Eleanor cried happy tears, and Lily demanded to cut the first piece of cake. At the end of the night, after the guests had gone and Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, Nathan and Melody stood alone in the backyard. The fairy lights still glowed, casting soft shadows across the grass. "We did it," Melody said softly. "We really did it. We did." Nathan pulled her close. "How does it feel, being married?" She thought about it for a moment. "Like coming home," she said. "Like everything I went through, all the loneliness, all the pain, all the years of believing I was not enough. It all led here. To you. To Lily. To this." Nathan kissed her forehead. "I love you, Mrs. Cole." She smiled, the name still new and wonderful on her ears. "I love you too, Mr. Cole." They stood there under the stars, holding each other, grateful for a desperate question asked in a parking lot, and the brave answer that changed everything. 3 years later, the Cole family gathered around their dinner table in a bigger house in a better neighborhood built from dreams they had once been afraid to have. Lily was 10 now, tall and confident, her mother's auburn hair finally tamed into a stylish cut she had chosen herself. She talked excitedly about her upcoming school play, where she had landed the lead role. Cameron, nearly 2, sat in his high chair, making a mess of his mashed potatoes. He had Melody's blonde hair and Nathan's blue eyes, and he was the happiest baby anyone had ever seen. Melody was visibly pregnant with their third, a girl they had already decided to name Grace, after the mother who had started it all. "Tell me the story again," Cameron demanded the way he always did. "How you and Mommy met." Nathan and Melody exchanged a smile. "Mommy asked me a question," Nathan began. "Can you pretend to be my boyfriend for a day?" Cameron recited from memory, giggling. "And what did Daddy say?" Lily prompted. "You do not have to pay me," Cameron announced proudly. "And then Daddy stood up to the mean lady at the party," Lily added. "And they fell in love because of my letter to Mommy Grace in heaven." "Your letter," Nathan confirmed, reaching over to squeeze his daughter's hand. "The letter that told us it was okay to be happy again." That night, after the children were asleep, Nathan found Melody standing by the window looking out at the stars. Her hand rested on her growing belly where their daughter was kicking softly. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. Everything she said softly. How different my life could have been. If I had not asked you that question, if I had let fear win, if I had thrown away that reunion invitation like every other year. She turned to look at him, her eyes bright. I was so convinced I was not worthy of love, that my body, my face, my entire existence was something to be ashamed of. And then you looked at me like I was the most beautiful thing you had ever seen. You were, Nathan said. You are. I know that now. She smiled. Not because you told me, but because your love taught me. And that is the greatest gift you could have ever given me. He pulled her close, and they stood together in the quiet darkness, grateful for second chances and new beginnings. Do you think Grace knows? Melody whispered. How happy we are. Nathan looked at the framed letter on the wall. Lily's letter to her mother in heaven, preserved and displayed as a reminder of how their family came together. I think she has known all along, he said. Because sometimes the most beautiful stories begin with the most unlikely questions. Sometimes healing comes from the most unexpected places, and sometimes love finds you in the form of a stranger holding a cup of coffee, waiting for his life to begin again. All it takes is one moment of courage, one act of kindness, one prayer whispered into the darkness by a child who still believed in magic, and the willingness to believe that maybe, just maybe, you are worthy of love exactly as you are. Because real love, the kind that heals and transforms and makes broken people whole again, does not care about appearances. It only cares about the size of your heart. And Melody's heart had always been big enough to hold an entire family. She just needed someone brave enough to see it. Friends, if this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, please take a moment to hit that like button. Your support means everything to us and helps us bring more heartwarming stories like this one to you. If you have not already, please subscribe to our channel and tap that notification bell so you never miss another story. We post new videos every week, and each one is created with love to remind you that kindness matters. Second chances are real, and you are worthy of love exactly as you are. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message today, someone who is struggling, someone who feels alone, someone who has forgotten their worth, please share this video with them. You never know whose life you might change with a simple act of kindness. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of our family. Until next time, remember you are enough. You have always been enough.